Hi there, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with a review for Godzilla X Kong, Godzilla and Kong? Godzilla X Kong? Is it like Black Klansman? Godzilla? Godzilla X Kong, the Frozen Empire, the New Empire, Frozen Empire's Ghostbusters. We're on a roll, guys. This is Matt at State of Flux here with a review for Godzilla X Kong. A New Empire, or the World's Trade Center, I don't know, but whatever. Regardless, this is a movie that happened, and, I actually like it. I think as far as kaiju movies go, it's a big, dumb monster movie full of big, dumb things happening to a whole lot of big, dumb people with bigger, dumber monsters. And that sounds dismissive and stuff like that, and on some level it is, but there is a charm to this movie that this film fully embraces, and half of the movie is actually really, really genuinely good. I think we had the makings of a fantastic movie, but I'll address that a little more towards the end. This is a film that is about Kong seeking family and longing to not be the last of his kind, and then being confronted in the Hollow Earth when he finds more of his kind, including the villainous Skar, which is a bigger, meaner gorilla. He's actually not bigger. I thought he was bigger. He's just really kind of like long, but he's not bigger than Kong. However, he is a visceral threat, and he has like the modeling that you get from like anime, especially with villainous characters, is very evocative in this character, which I thought was kind of neat. But Kong is confronted with that which he has always wanted, and it kind of behaves similarly with the human characters, who are also trying to find their place in all of this. And in the meantime, Godzilla is doing his Godzilla shenanigans, and that's kind of what this movie's about. There's not a ton there, and maybe that's part of the problem. This film has two major flaws. One of the flaws it can't help. It is incapable of being able to overcome. And the other one, I think, is sort of what was forced upon the film by outside forces. So we'll discuss each in turn. First things first. The biggest thing that this film has to overcome is the Godzilla -1 of it all. Godzilla -1 is a genuine masterpiece, not of kaiju filmmaking. It is that good of a movie in general. It was my favorite film of 2023. And I saw it on a lot of people's top 10 films of the year list. It is a movie that is simply good regardless of genre. And being the next, not only kaiju movie, but Godzilla movie to follow it, is tough shoes to fill. And the strange and unique thing about Godzilla that's really only shared with one other property and that I can really think of any kind, and that would be Batman, is that Godzilla is allowed to be many different things. It can be a cerebral, honest, true movie that dives deep into the inner workings of humanity and has something truly interesting or honest or deconstructive to say. And it can also be a story where Godzilla learns how to use his breath to fly, and does like flying double kicks and things like that. Both of these are the same. They're the same character. And neither is an inaccurate depiction of Godzilla, similar to how you can have George Clooney's Batman exist and also have merit. People are really down on the movie, but I think there's merit to be had in it, while also having like the Christopher Nolan or the Matt Reeves interpretation of Batman, or even the Zack Snyder interpretation of Batman. And it's all real, it all works. There's absolutely a place for Adam West and Michael Keaton in the same discussion. Godzilla operates that same way. So while this is following Godzilla -1. It's not a bad interpretation of Godzilla. I like Godzilla as this force of nature. It just is nowhere near as intellectually stimulating as that film is. And it's noticeable. But the film can't help that. And so it's something where I think 10 years from now, people will not have that in the discussion whatsoever. They're just going to view this as one of the entries of the legendary monster movie saga. And is it one of the better or worse ones will be a little easier to tell moving on down the line. Right now we have such a recency to this genuine masterpiece out of Toho with Godzilla -1. So it's hard to discuss this one on that merit. But let's discuss this film. This film also does have one other flaw that I discussed, and that is that when Adam Wingard, the director of this film, was promoting Godzilla vs. Kong a couple of years back, he had said at that time that he had planned to follow that film up with a Kong sequel, a Son of Kong interpretation, where he was going to dive deep on like Kong, his wants, and a potential family. And this was largely because at the time they were unsure whether or not they were going to be able to capitalize and get Toho to license Godzilla back out. They had only made a 3-picture deal and they had come to the end of those 3 pictures with Godzilla vs. Kong. So he started developing a film without Godzilla, which is super obvious when watching this, because Godzilla feels not only shoehorned in, but like an honest, genuine afterthought. And excuse me. It feels like an honest, genuine afterthought. And that's kind of frustrating when he gets top billing even ahead of Kong. This movie would have been a tighter, more succinct film if you remove Godzilla and the other kaijus besides the apes from the movie. And I will touch on them in a moment because I do want to address the film's qualities, as it does have many. But that's the biggest issue. One other issue that isn't exclusive to this film, but the legendary films as a whole, is the criticism has always been that the human characters are bland and uninteresting. Let's just get back to the monster mayhem. And Adam Wingard delivers that really, really effing well. That said, they've kind of settled into this place where the humans operate under a prism of let's just be funny and quippy and silly to distract from the fact that we don't have anything honest to say with these characters and they're just there to keep the budget down from making just a movie about giant monsters hitting each other. And there's some like emotional weight that they try to put in there, and it works or it doesn't, whatever. What makes it harder to relate to for any of these human characters is that there's very little carryover to make it hard to honestly track the human characters and find a way to care about them. It's sort of like if you look at the Avengers. Agent Coulson's death in the Avengers kind of worked because you had a bunch of experiences with him, and he happened to be written best in the film where he got killed, but you had the time spent with him in Iron Man, the little bit of time in Iron Man 2, the quite a bit of time you had with him in Thor, plus those 2 one-shots. You got to spend time with that character to really feel the weight of him not being there any longer. Now, this film doesn't take any dramatic strikes against any of the characters, but I use Agent Coulson as a good way to illustrate this point, that it's hard to care about these characters when they just kind of shelve a lot of them. Like, nobody carries over from movie 1 to movie 2, Godzilla to Godzilla King of the Monsters, except for Dr. Serizawa. And his death was relatively meaningless at the end of the day. Nobody really carries over from Kong Skull Island to any of the sequels. The first time you got carryover that was strong or worked functionally besides Dr. Serizawa was you had Millie Bobby Brown's character and her dad from Godzilla King of the Monsters carried over to Kong Skull Island, Godzilla vs. Kong. And I liked her character. She improved with Godzilla vs. Kong. And I was hoping to see more of her. But they shelved her and her funny friend, and the dad, Kyle MacLachlan, in order to bring back the young island girl that was connected to Kong. That makes sense. Do bring her back. But then they bring back the Rebecca Hall character, who I had forgotten was even in Godzilla vs. Kong until I saw her in this, and I was like, oh, that's right. She carried a hefty amount of that movie, if memory serves. And then bringing back Brian Tyree Henry. I get why you bring him back. He was comedic gold in the previous one, and he does a fair amount of work in here along with Dan Stevens to make it work. But I don't know, just a thought of, if you're going to have these characters or have people in the movies, just continue using the same ones. If you look at all of the eras of Godzilla, the best era of Godzilla getting consistent quality was when they serialized Godzilla in the Heisei era. You had virtually no carryover between the return of Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Biollante, but from Godzilla vs. Biollante, pretty much all the way through Godzilla vs. Destroyer, you had the same set of characters, the same scenarios, and the stories intermingled and built into each other organically, and you got to care about those characters pretty well, even though they didn't necessarily do anything too dramatically hefty with those characters. After spending enough time with them, you were excited to be back seeing them some more. And I think that is how to utilize the characters in this, and they're not doing them because they're not bringing them back for more than one movie. And that's kind of frustrating. That's that. Moving on to the qualities of this film, as with the previous film, it is very good looking. The color palette isn't quite as strong as it was in the previous one, but there's a more amount of colors than this one. The previous film was very orange and greeny blue, teal, if you will. This film has the orange and blue, but far more reds and greens and pink and gold and the baby blues and stuff like that. There's quite a swath of color in this that they take good advantage of. It's a good looking movie. The monsters themselves look pretty solid, and I enjoyed that. And then you got the inclusion of new villains, which is both really cool and kind of disappointing. Do I want to see in a perfect world, like they had a monster in this that easily could have been Anguirus, and it wasn't, and it's like, oh, it would have been neat for that, but you know what, they gave us a brand new monster, the one that even breathes ice and whatnot. That was kind of cool. So always expanding the monster world is kind of neat, and I like the evil Kong that he had to take down, and I like that the film didn't give away a pretty big secret that the film is concealing, and I'm not going to give it away either. But that was kind of neat. Well, it could be argued that that's shoehorned in. It worked for me because it's one of my favorite kaijus, full stop. So, there you have it. I like this movie. I give it 3 stars. It is a fun film, good time to have in the theater to kill about 90 minutes of your time. I do think it would have been better if they'd removed Godzilla. There, I said it. What did you think of this film? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.